Hi, welcome to the channel Moyna Bass Fishes. I am Jim Moyna and I am in Minnesota right now. So this video is going to be about uh, wacky rig worm hooks. But before we get into that, I just want to say that I am available for educational guide trips. You can reach out to me here and just leave a comment because I do read all the comments, and we can touch bases from there. So anyhow, and we could go in basically where I'm not everywhere all at once. So this was, I guess, like now I'm in Minnesota, so that would be a good place to do it, somewhere in Minnesota. So if you're coming this way, check me out because I do have a few things that might help you out. All right. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I'm extremely frustrated with weedless hooks that are made for wacky rigging. I can't tell you how many fish I've lost because of them. And I just don't understand it. I've tried several different varieties. I've tried bending the hooks to shape them differently. I've trimmed the weed guards on them different lengths. I've bent the weed guards. Now, mostly what I've used are the titanium, the ones with the two titanium prongs. Like, for example, for example, I don't know if you can see them prongs there. But so it'd be hooks like that. And I've used different shapes, different shafts. Like here, this one's a long shaft, which is probably the better one of the bunch. Kind of a mid shaft, and then you got these more shorter, circly ones. And I've primarily used the titanium. They also make the hooks that have the like the stranded like not monofilament, but like a fluorocarbon fiber, like a heavy wheat, like one strand of like plastic, like a heavy fluorocarbon strand, or I don't know what it is, some kind of plastic. And they'll have two strands of them actually, one to make a V like this. And I've tried those, but not enough. I might have to go back to those. But I've always stayed away from them because with these titanium strands, they're so skinny and so subtle that they really don't take away from the overall look and image of the worm that I'm presenting to them. But these hooks with the heavy plastic strands, I mean, to me that stands out a lot more. It kind of changes the image of the bait a little bit. And also, I know if I go way oversized on the hook, then my hooking percentage improves a little bit. But if I go with just a hook with no strands, no weedless protection, I mean, I can go with a much smaller hook and have a way better hooking percentage. And if I try to go to the same size hook with the weed guard on it, the hooking percentage is absolutely terrible. I'm talking, I can go from like a 90% hookup ratio, add the weed guards to the same hook, same size, and now you're down to like 65% hookup ratio, which is completely unacceptable. For whatever technique I'm throwing, I've got to. If I'm not getting 90% or better, I'm not happy. No matter what you do, you're always going to lose some. But seriously, I've gone. There was a term a couple years ago where all I did was wacky rig, and it was with a open hook, no weed guard. I went 27 for 27 on that hook, and that's not uncommon for me to absolutely have 95% or better hookups with that setup that I use. But as soon as I go put them weed guard type hooks on there, I mean, it is just a nightmare. and I finally have had enough. It's I'm just not going to fish that. I'm just not going to fish that technique no more. And where you got to have the weed guard is when you're fishing bulrushes, in and around lily pads, uh, brush piles, flooded bushes, lay down trees, um, those type docks, sometimes docks, those types of places. Um, where I can get by without that, where I can use just an open hook, is typically just rock, rock type banks, or even weeds. Like I'll fish a hook, I'll fish a wacky rig without a weed guard in hydrilla or cabbage weed or pepper grass um, or eelgrass or coontail grass or milfoil. I mean, any of that submerged vegetation, just about any of it, I'll just go open. And when you kind of snag up a little bit, you just snap your rod, and the fine hook that I'm using will just snap right through that weed, and it won't like catch it and drag it in. I mean, sometimes you do catch it and drag it in, but that's well worth the trade-off for 90-95% hookup ratio. I'll trade that. That's a good trade-off compared. If I was to put on the weed guard, I'd be losing way more fish. So, and I'm open. Listen, I am so open to ideas as far as how to get around this problem. I mean, I think for first thing I can do is I got to go back to using some of these plastic weed guards and just play with that some more. But I'm telling you what, with those those little finessey titanium weed guards, and plus they snap. I mean, you might catch one fish on one of them things, and it'll snap them titanium weed guards off. But I've tried bending them, and cutting them down in size, and I've tried leaving them the full length. Like on this hook, for example. I mean, it comes with those prongs at least a half inch longer, at least, maybe even more. And they're straight on the end. So you can see what I did here is I took a pliers and I bent the prongs over, I was thinking maybe these pointy prongs, prior to me bending them over, were like sticking into the fish's mouth somehow, and not allowing it to close down on the hook gap. So I've been bending them over like this, the ends of the prongs, weedless prongs. That didn't do it. That didn't help. Didn't change anything. Still had the same problem. And then cutting them down. I've left them the full length. I've cut them down. It's the same result every time. So I know VMC's got one of those hooks that has the plastic, the fluorocarbon guard or whatever that material is. So I have tried those in the past. Nothing. I wasn't really serious about them, but I guess I'm gonna have to try those. But if any of you guys have any other idea, any way around it, man, I'm all ears. I'm totally open-minded on this one, because as it is now, I just can't see how I can continue to. And the reason why I bring this up is because, well, it's just an accumulation over several tournaments. But here at Rayburn, I was at Sam Rayburn just last week, and lost a couple nice fish on a wacky rig with one of these titanium hooks in there, or titanium weed guarded hooks. At Lake Eufaula earlier this year, same thing. I lost a couple of key fish there on it. Last year I lost this fish I'll never forget. It was like, seriously, it was like 7 or 8 pounder I lost at Lake Texoma in a Toyota Series there, which I finished like 27th place without that fish in my bag. Had I had that fish in my bag, I would have finished like second, third, or fourth. I mean, it would have been right in there. So that's, and those are just a few examples. I've been just fighting this, trying to come up with a better way. Haven't solved it. So if any of you guys can solve that problem, let me know, because I want to hear about it. So, and I'm telling you, I've used long shaft, long shanker type hooks, short shanker type hooks, different. I've went and bended them myself, re-bend them, reshaped them, thinking, let's try for a different shape. Let's change the gap a little. I've bent the gaps open. I've bent the gaps closer, tighter. I've just tried all kinds of stuff. So anyhow, that's about all I got to say. If you have a solution, I'm all ears. But right now, my solution is to not even fish with it. Not even fish with that rig. Just, if I'm going to fish a flooded bush, I'm going to pitch a Texas rig in there, or I'm going to Texas rig a worm and throw it in there. I'm not going to wacky rig it with a weedless weed guard. And not only that, just one more thing, because I mentioned the poor hookup. I've mentioned that the prongs break easy. And here's the third thing: if you're going to put a weed guard on there, or a brush guard, weed guard, whatever you want to call it, it shouldn't keep you out of the brush from snagging. I mean, at Rayburn, I was constantly snagging all the time, even though I had these brush guards on there. So, and I'm thinking, why am I even fishing with a brush guarded hook if this is what's going to be, if every fourth cast I'm snagging something. So, quite the aggravation there at Rayburn, to say the least. So anyhow, that's enough of that one. Over.